Hey guys! Take a walk with me through Fitzgerald's Park as we discuss Steno's Law. Now, if you've never heard of the ledges, they're really cool. Basically, they were formed 300 million years ago, before dinosaurs, by a oceanic beach. And there was a lot of sand on that beach, which eventually formed sandstone, which is what the ledges are made out of. So they're one of the best examples in the area of sedimentary rock. Now, one principle that isn't part of Steno's Law, but is still an important principle, is the principle of sedimentary fragments. That basically says that the fragments of sand that this is made up of is older than the whole rock itself. So fragments within a rock are older than the rock. So that's your little bonus principle. Let's get back to Steno's Law. All right, here's a great example of the ledges. As you can see, there's layers of rock. And like I said, this is all sedimentary rock. It's all formed of sandstone. So the principle of superposition says that the layers at the top are going to be the youngest and the layers at the bottom are going to be the oldest. So as you go up the rock, each layer is younger. I'm going to go through all the principles using this clay model. So going through the principle of superposition first, we can see that there are a bunch of layers on this rock. Now, according to the law of superposition, the law at the bottom, this tan one, would be the oldest. And as you work your way up, this gray one would be the newest. So it'd go oldest, second oldest, all the way up to second newest. Here's a closer look of the rock. As you can see, as you go up the rock, you have many different layers. The principle of original horizontality basically states that rock layers are laid horizontally, but they can later be deformed by processes like folding. So they can appear to be wavy, but it's still horizontal layers originally. They were just pushed. And you can still tell which one is youngest to oldest. So the one at top is like this, but it's still the youngest. And the one at the bottom is like this, but it's still the oldest. Now let's think of the principle of original horizontality. So that states that these are all horizontally laid, right? But then something that can happen, like it gets folded, and it can look like a wave. But the layer on top is still the youngest layer, and the layer on bottom is still the oldest layer. Another principle of Steno's Law is the principle of lateral continuity. This principle states that strata can be assumed to continue laterally beyond where it presently ends. So just because the ledges say end, and it looks like just open space, later on there'll be more ledges. So it continued laterally even though we couldn't see it continued. All right, let's look at the principle of lateral continuity. So this one states that we can assume that rocks continue on laterally, past where they presently end. So this gray layer here seems to end right here, but if we continue laterally, we can see that it goes beyond that. So it goes beyond where it presently ends. Another principle is the principle of cross-cutting relationships. So this principle states that if a rock cuts through another rock, the rock cutting through the rock is younger than the rock it's cutting through. In relationships, we can see that the yellow piece of rock that cuts through all the layers would be the youngest layer of rock because it cuts through all of them. Now if, say, it only cut through all the rocks until the gray one, it would be younger than all the rocks except the gray because it doesn't cut through the gray. All right, so that was a lot to digest. We have the principle of superposition, the principle of original horizontality, the principle of lateral continuity, and the principle of cross-cutting relationships. And I gave you that little bonus in there of sedimentary fragments. So I hope you guys found this informational, and let me know if you have any questions.